Good morning, ladies. I'm very pleased to be here. Just let me know if you can't hear me. I feel so privileged to be able to speak to you. Hopefully through my talk I'll be able to bring some of my passion about what I do to you, but I'm also incredibly passionate about South Africa and the women of South Africa. And the ladies sitting in this room are part of a very big part of the future of our country. And if I can have a small influence on you today, I will feel like I'm doing my small part to be able to bring some brightness to our future. So thank you, Busi, for the introduction, very much appreciated. So I'm one of the directors of WSI Durban. WSI is the world's largest digital marketing organization. We've got offices in over 80 countries. My husband and I own the local office. And what is digital marketing? In a very simple term, digital marketing means that when somebody types into Google looking for a product or a service, we make sure that our customers come up. So I help companies solve Google problems, basically. And part of helping people to solve Google problems is working a lot with social media, which is why I know that social media does and frequently kills careers. And I want to try and help you guys today to understand what it is that you can do to protect yourselves and your personal brand against trashing your name on the internet. So the internet is big. I don't think that people have quite an understanding of the amount of stuff that we are putting onto the internet every single second of every day. If you think about, now this little graphic is quite a few years old, so I imagine that the numbers are quite astoundingly larger. But this is saying that if we had to print out the internet and sit and read it, it would take us 57,000 years to read everything that is online. And you have to think about it for a moment that every single time you send a WhatsApp message, you are actually contributing to the amount of content that is out there on the internet. Every Facebook post, every tweet, every YouTube video adds to the amount of content that is out there. And social media has become so pervasive. There's I had a little video that I was going to show you, but the technology tends to work against us sometime. But if you go onto YouTube and you Google a man called Eric Qualman, and you have a look at his videos, he does a video every year that kind of summarizes social media statistics. And it's quite astounding to see in the last 5 years how much the internet has grown and how much our use of it has grown. Our attention span is now less than a goldfish. So a goldfish has an attention span of 8 seconds. Human beings on the internet, waiting for a page to load, we've got an attention span of 7 seconds. And that's not surprising because all of this information is right at our fingertips and we want it right now. But that does become dangerous. So a lot of the time we hear, oh yes, yeah, the internet, social media is big overseas, but in South Africa it's still something that not that many people access. Well, in January this year, South Africa had 18 million active social media users. So that's not just accounts that have been created, those are people that are using social media on a regular basis. And that grew 20% in 2017. So it's growing at a really good rate. On average, South African social media users spend 3 hours a day on social media. And everybody goes, there's no way, I don't sit for 3 hours a day on Facebook. Yes, you do, because when you're in the queue at the bank and you refresh your feed and you look at it and you have a look at Twitter, you take all of those little bits of time and add them up. And we are spending a lot of time online. Now, digital media is a tool. I do a lot of talks at schools for kids to help them to understand how to be a good digital citizen. And I hear from parents a lot of the time, oh no, I'm not going to let my child on social media. Social media is bad. Social media is like any tool. Take a hammer, for instance, something that's really simple. A hammer can build a house. It can provide shelter for a family. But that exact same hammer used in different hands with different intentions can break down that house. So social media in and of itself is not a bad thing. Digital media is not a bad thing. And when I talk about digital media, I'm including things like emails and messaging platforms like WhatsApp. So these things are not bad in and of themselves. It's the person that is using them and the intention that they use it with. Social media is about creating communities. Now, if your guys' communities are anything like my community in our neighborhood, you can see there are some people that are incredible positive influences on the community. They do amazing work. Every message that goes out on the groups is one of support and kindness. And then there are those people that, quite honestly, you wish that you could just delete them from the WhatsApp group, because everything that comes out is just negative and it doesn't really add to the conversation. So you have to think about the type of digital citizen that you want to be. And that's what I want to try and give you today, is some idea of things that you can do to be able to protect your personal brand online, and things that you can do to hopefully be able to help other people and hopefully be able to teach your kids as well. I don't know about you guys. I come from a very unusual generation. We called the Zennials. It's between 1975 or 1978 and 1984. These are the people that had an analog childhood and a digital adulthood. So I got my first cell phone when I was 16. So I'm not a millennial because I didn't grow up with the technology, but I have a good understanding of it. But nobody taught us. Like my mom used to say, she didn't know that TV was bad. She used the TV as a babysitter. I would get home from school, she'd put me in front of the TV, done. For her, afternoon was then free. She didn't know that it was a bad thing to use the TV that way. Same way that we now, as parents, don't know any better, so we give our kids devices that are absolutely open to every piece of knowledge in human history. We need to have an understanding of how to protect ourselves and then be able to teach that to our children. So the first thing is content responsibility, and this is a huge one in South Africa. Essentially, if you shared it, the law sees it the same as if you created it. There is so much content out there on the internet, like I've said, and some of it is amazing. I love kitten videos. I have 2 little kittens at the moment, so I make my own little kitten videos. You get great memes, things that are fun and very shareable. You can also have negative, negative things that are happening, and social media can galvanize the community, like with the nurdle issue last year with the plastic nurdles on the beaches in Durban, where social media helped to be able to galvanize people to come and volunteer and help to clean them up. So it can be anything as stupid as a kitten video, or anything as serious as pulling people together to get 12 soccer players out of a cave in Thailand. So social media is incredibly powerful, and sharing these things can help to raise awareness. But did you know, under South African law, if you share an image, a story, a link, or a video, you can be held accountable in the same way as if you created it. And I'm going to give you a very stark example. Boys at school who take photos through the window of the girls getting changed in the change room and then share it on WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, whatever, to the other boys in the school. They have just created and syndicated child pornography. So your child sitting at home gets the message, gets the picture, and goes, oh my gosh, this is terrible, look at this, and then shares it again. They've now syndicated child pornography. It is quite simple and quite straightforward. If you receive an image of was it earlier this year or last year, the awful, awful video of that child being abused, and everybody went, oh, share, this is terrible. You have to stop and think of the impact on that child of her image and her terror being syndicated for everybody to see is a huge violation of her privacy. So we really have to think about the things that we are putting out there. We have to think about, are we making the internet a better place by making this thing go further? One of the other things that's come to light, I don't think it's been tested in the courts yet, but I know that large news organizations have taken it very seriously. You can also be held accountable for any racist, defamatory, or hurtful comments that are made on anything that you publish. So for example, if you have a blog and somebody then publishes negative comments or hate speech as a comment on your blog, you can be held accountable for what they've said because you are the publisher of the content. So if you don't take action to be able to remove it or mitigate it, you can be held accountable. And some of the large news publishers in South Africa have taken this so seriously that they've actually removed the comment section from their websites, because it's easier for them to do that than to have to actually manage all of the comments that come through. Because we all know that South Africans can sometimes open our mouths and make the most ridiculous statements. Also, anything that you say in your personal capacity can affect your employer or your company, your business. We saw this very clearly with Penny Sparrow's case. Now, Penny Sparrow was employed at an estate agency on the South Coast. At the time when she made those comments, she was no longer employed there. But the backlash to her previous employers was massive, and it had a huge negative impact on their business. So one of the things that you have to remember is that when you open your mouth in real life or in the digital space, it comes back on all of the people around you. It comes back on your employers, it comes back on your co-workers, it comes back on your family, it comes back on your community. So apart from there being legal ramifications, there are massive social ramifications when you decide to make comments. And we're going to talk about when to know whether a comment is right or not just now. The idea that we are responsible for all of this and that we can be held legally accountable for what somebody else has written, that's how that made me feel when I thought about it. And it was the first thing, as my daughter started playing on the iPad, that I had to teach her, was that whatever you share, you have to treat it as if you created it. The next thing I want to talk about is cyberbullying, because this is something that gets brought up in schools all the time. And quite frankly, I think that adults are way worse cyberbullies than kids are. There's a Facebook group called Upper Highway Info. It is astounding how mean people can be to each other. So what is cyberbullying? Cyberbullying is making a person feel humiliated, harassed, victimized, or threatened using digital communication channels. So this is not just about Facebook. This is about WhatsApp. It's about email. It's about using a digital platform to make somebody else feel less. The truth is that when we have the protection of a screen, we feel safer. Do you guys know the story with Beyonce and Sasha Fierce? Okay, so Beyonce Knowles has this alter ego called Sasha Fierce. And when she steps on stage, she stops being Beyonce and she starts being Sasha Fierce, because it's a different personality. This is what happens to us online, is that all of a sudden we are braver, we are more confident, and in some cases we can be a lot more cruel. It's almost as if we've had 2 glasses of wine as soon as we turn the screen on, because the stuff comes out of us with no filter. And we can see how this has impacted so many people. We have so many examples to pick from. When I first started doing this presentation sort of 2 years ago, 3 years ago, there were only a few examples. Now, if you do a Google search for sort of like social media scandal, there's just thousands of them. Obviously, the ones that we've had, Vicky Momberg and her sort of amazing rant. This woman had, in this case, it was almost as if social media did the world a favor, because it showed her to be her true colors. But she couldn't pull back. She could never stop. Another amazing example that I absolutely love was Justine Sacco. Now, Justine Sacco is a PR executive for a company in America, and she was coming to visit South Africa. And just before she got on a plane to come and visit our country, she tweeted, "Going to Africa, hope I don't get AIDS, just kidding, I'm white." Like, no comment. No, Justine Sacco. And bearing in mind, this woman is a PR executive. She works in public relations. So she was obviously in the wrong line of work. But she got on this plane to come here from America. By the time she landed, she was a worldwide sensation because this tweet had gone viral. And she'd been fired. So she landed and got straight back on the plane and went back home again. You have to think so clearly before you let your fingers do the walking through the internet. Now, very often we hear that freedom of expression, this whole thing, I have a right to express myself. Well, actually, under South African law, you do, but you don't. So, while we have a right to freedom of expression, it's not an unlimited right. This right meets its end when it limits others' right to privacy, dignity, and reputation, or constitutes hate speech. Sharing information that damages another person's reputation legally constitutes defamation. That's a direct quote from Emma Sadler, who's probably South Africa's top social media law expert. So yes, you have a right to express your opinions, but not when your opinions make somebody else feel less. We all have an understanding that there are certain things that you do not say. And for some reason, people believe that being online just gives them a right to be able to spew whatever vicious nonsense they have going on in their mind out into the world. And that's just not true. You can be legally held accountable for it, as we are seeing every single day. How many cases are there before the Human Rights Commission at the moment with regards to hate speech on social media, especially involving some of our quite prominent politicians? Some rules for protecting yourself. Now, screenshots can be saved. This is what I always hear from the kids. Oh, it's fine, we use Snapchat and it disappears. Nothing ever disappears. Just because you feel like you are having a private conversation through WhatsApp with somebody else does not mean that it is private, because that person can screenshot it. Somebody else can pick up their phone, see what you are saying and go, oh my gosh, screenshot that and share it for the world to see. If you don't want it to become public, don't put it in your phone, don't put it in your computer. Okay, it really is that simple. If it is not something you would want made public, don't put it onto anything digital. Privacy settings can be changed. This happened with Facebook about 4 years, I think it was about 4 years ago, where all of a sudden they changed the way that the privacy settings on photos work. And I'm quite tough with my settings. I don't want anybody seeing my photos apart from my friends. And all of a sudden I had all of these people commenting on my photos that, as far as I was concerned, shouldn't be able to see them. Facebook had changed the setting, and now all of a sudden friends of friends could see the photos as well. So you have to be aware when you get those updates. When it says something has been updated, read it. And if you don't understand it, because half the time I don't understand it, find a friend who will and get them to work through it so that you understand who can see the things that you are publishing. Now, a good rule of thumb, this is the one that I use with the kids, is that you shouldn't post, share, or write anything that you wouldn't be happy for your mom or your grand to see. Now, I know that some of us have moms and grands that are a little bit more liberal than others. So let's just use something, a bit of a different example. Imagine that you are going to post something online about people with blue eyes. So you are going to say something about people with blue eyes. You have to imagine yourself standing in a room with 100 people with blue eyes. And you have to stand in front of them and say, with your voice, the thing that you're going to put online. And if there is a little feeling in you that goes, oh gosh, no, I couldn't do that, don't put it. Don't write it, don't put it out there. Because that little gut feeling is the thing that is protecting you. That is the thing that is saying to you, you can't put this out there. You also have to remember that one day your potential employer, client, when you go to become the next CEO of Transnet, and they go back through your history online, that is going to count against you. They are going to look and pick through every single thing that you have ever put on the internet. My husband has been on the governing body of my child's preschool for years, and they needed to hire a new teacher. And so the principal went through sort of a whole bunch of interviews, and they came down to 3 candidates